It was supposed to be an ordinary Sunday morning in the quiet suburban enclave of Willow Creek, Virginia, in the spring of 2024. Birds sang, Daniel was out pruning the rose bushes, and his wife, Emily, was humming softly as she carried a tray of warm blueberry scones to the elderly couple next door. The neighborhood felt like a postcard until Linda, the HOA president, sauntered across the lawn, her oversized sunglasses perched like a crown, her ever-present clipboard clutched like a weapon. Her lips twisted into a smug grin as she watched Emily cross the street. Loud enough for the entire block to hear, she sneered, "Your wife should stick to baking and leave the important stuff to the adults. Just a homemaker, right?" Daniel froze, his pruning shears still in hand. He glanced at Emily, who paused mid-step, her face unervingly calm. She gave Linda a polite nod, turned, and continued on her way. What Linda didn't know was that she'd just insulted a woman who'd led covert operations in hostile waters, briefed admirals at the Pentagon, and orchestrated multinational defense strategies for the U.S. Navy. And now, Emily was about to bring her battlefield expertise to Willow Creek. 3 days earlier, Emily had returned from a 4-month stint consulting on AI-driven naval logistics in D.C. She preferred to keep a low profile at home, trading her commander's uniform for jeans and a hoodie. To the neighbors, she was just Daniel's cheerful wife, always ready with a smile and a batch of baked goods. No one pried in her career not because it was dull, but because Emily had a knack for blending in while staying 10 steps ahead. Linda, however, mistook that for weakness. For years, Linda had ruled the HOA with an iron grip, nitpicking everything from fence heights to holiday lights left up too long. Lately, she'd grown bolder, pushing rules like banning more than 2 cars per driveway or requiring HOA approval for backyard barbecues. When residents resisted, she slapped them with fines. When they questioned her, she threatened lawsuits. Emily's return gave Linda a new target, and the scone incident was just the opening salvo. 2 days later, Emily hosted a casual neighborhood get-together in their backyard lemonade, snacks, and kids playing tag. It was nothing grand, just a chance for folks to reconnect. Linda showed up, not with a smile, but with a stack of papers and a whistle dangling from her neck like she was refereeing a game nobody wanted to play. She blew the whistle, silencing the crowd, and declared, "This is an unauthorized gathering. You're violating HOA Code 3 CNO events with more than 5 people without board approval." A kid burst into tears, thinking the party was over. Emily stood, brushed off her jeans, and approached Linda with a serene smile. "Care for a scone?" she offered, holding out the tray. Linda scoffed. "Don't play sweet. Just because you bake doesn't mean you're above the rules. Why don't you stick to knitting or whatever housewives do?" The air grew thick. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably, some staring at the ground. Emily, still smiling, leaned in and said, "Duly noted." Then she picked up her lawn chair and walked back to her porch without another word. Daniel knew that smile. It wasn't defeat, it was the calm before a storm. That night, while Daniel cleaned dishes, Emily sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open and a Navy-issued tablet beside her. She wasn't browsing recipes. She was drafting something called Operation Hearthguard. Daniel peeked over her shoulder and saw spreadsheets, county regulations, and a diagram of the HOA's power structure. She'd already dug up the HOA bylaws, local housing laws, and a list of every fine Linda had issued in the past 2 years, many of them illegal, some outright fraudulent. "You're taking on the HOA?" Daniel asked, half joking. Emily didn't look up. "No," she said coolly. "I'm running a precision operation with layered contingencies and a clear endgame. Also, I've called in reinforcements." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Reinforcements?" She grinned. "They arrive Friday. Until then, we watch and wait." By Friday, Linda was doubling down. A notice appeared on Daniel and Emily's door, claiming their mailbox shade-soft gray wasn't the approved pebble dusk. At 2 p.m., as promised, Emily's backup arrived. 3 figures, not in uniform but carrying themselves with unmistakable authority, stepped out of a rental car. One wore aviators despite the overcast sky. Another had a Navy anchor tattoo peeking from his sleeve. Linda spotted them and marched over, clipboard in hand. Guests staying over 48 hours must register with the board, she barked. The tallest, a woman named Claire, turned and smiled. We're just here to help a friend. Linda squinted. Help how? Claire leaned in. However she needs. Then she walked off, leaving Linda clutching her phone. That evening, Daniel and Emily hosted a low-key dinner for the newcomers. Unbeknownst to Linda, a discreet camera caught her creeping along their fence, muttering about suspicious visitors. The footage would prove useful later. The real showdown came at the next HOA meeting in the community center. Usually a sleepy affair, this time the room buzzed with nearly 30 residents. Linda stood at the podium, oozing confidence. I propose a new rule, she announced. Any homeowner hosting unapproved gatherings or unregistered guests will face fines. She shot a pointed look at Emily. That's when Emily rose from the back, folder in hand, and walked to the front. Before you vote, she said calmly, you should know that rule violates state housing law, updated in 2020. Here's the statute. She handed copies to the board. Then she held up her Navy ID. For clarity, I'm Commander Emily Vaughn, U.S. Navy Reserve, currently on leave from strategic operations at the Pentagon. I've stayed quiet to keep the peace, but I have time and I don't tolerate bullies. The room went silent. Linda paled. A board member whispered, she's the one from that Black Sea op. Emily stepped back, her smile razor-sharp. Linda tried to speak, but her voice failed. Then, Emily's Navy friends stood and clapped. The room erupted. The next morning, a certified letter from the HOA arrived, citing Emily for unauthorized military gatherings, excessive guests, and absurdly disruptive noise potential. Emily skimmed the pages, unfazed. She'd predicted Linda's escalation. Over the next week, she slipped into full tactical mode, though to the neighbors she was still just Emily, handing out scones and chatting about gardening. Behind closed doors, their spare room became a war room. One wall was plastered with HOA documents, fine patterns, and a timeline of Linda's overreaches. Emily mapped Linda's routines, her dog walks, her coffee runs like a general studying enemy movements. She met with 3 fed-up neighbors, a retired lawyer, a tech whiz, and a widower whose porch swing Linda had ordered removed. Emily shared evidence of Linda's abuses, illegal fines, trespassing, fake citations. They agreed to form a coalition for a recall vote. But Emily wasn't just aiming to oust Linda. She wanted to dismantle the entire rotten system. The following Friday, Linda showed up at Emily's house with 2 security goons in tacky uniforms, claiming they were inspecting for safety violations. Emily, sipping iced tea on the porch, asked for their credentials. When they had none, Daniel stepped in, his old cop instincts kicking in. You know what trespassing means? He asked. Linda snapped that the HOA was above such nonsense. Emily started recording. Say that again, she said. Linda's thugs backed off, and she hissed, your little game won't last. Emily replied, I'm not playing. I'm fact-finding. Inside, her Navy friends uncovered more. HOA funds funneled to a shell account, contracts tied to Linda's brother-in-law. The noose was tightening. At the next HOA meeting, Emily arrived armed not with guns, but with a binder of evidence, affidavits, videos, audio of Linda's threats, and a petition for an audit signed by 65% of residents. As she listed Linda's crimes: fraud, harassment, unauthorized surveillance, the room roared. Linda called the evidence fake, but neighbors spoke up, sharing their own stories of her tyranny. The board, cornered, voted for the audit and a recall election. Linda stormed out, vowing revenge. The audit dropped days before the vote, revealing $42,000 in misappropriated funds, fake vendors, personal reimbursements, fines pocketed by Linda. The neighborhood reeled. Linda tried to spin it, claiming Emily had rigged the report, but her flyers and door-to-door rants fell flat. At the recall vote, turnout was unprecedented. Neighbors turned it into a festival, with kids waving signs and music playing. The result, 78-4 to remove Linda. She didn't show, sending a lackey who slunk away after the announcement. That night, Linda posted a rant online, blaming military conspiracies. It was deleted within hours. Emily declined the interim president role, nominating Mrs. Ellis, a beloved retired nurse. She focused on rebuilding teaching residents their rights, streamlining HOA rules. Linda's final act was a laughable lawsuit against Emily and the board, dismissed in minutes when her own forged document surfaced. She vanished soon after, rumored to be hiding at her aunt's or working at a strip mall craft shop. One day, Emily received an unmarked envelope. Inside was the first fine Linda had issued her for an unapproved mailbox color, with a scrawled note, "I misjudged you." Emily framed it beside her Navy medals, a quiet trophy. The neighborhood bloomed. Kids played freely, neighbors smiled again, and the HOA became a tool for community, not control. Emily, now a local legend, spoke at a nearby town hall, urging others to fight petty tyrants with facts and courage. One evening, a Navy chopper landed at a school field for a kids' outreach event Emily had organized. Linda, on a break from her warehouse job, saw it and fled, her sandwich uneaten. Another envelope arrived soon after, a copy of the same fine, crossed out with "voided by truth" in red. Emily smiled, tucking it away. As she and Daniel sat on their porch, the street alive with laughter, Emily whispered that the Real fight was never about Linda. It was about reclaiming their home's soul. She'd done it not with shouts, but with patience, proof, and a commander's resolve. They called her a homemaker, but she was a warrior, a guardian, a neighbor who knew how to win without ever raising her voice. What do you think? Was Emily's approach calm, strategic, relentless, calculated, or was it the only way to topple a tyrant like Linda? Should she have confronted Linda head-on from the start, or was her slow-burn strategy the key? And what about Linda? Did she deserve a chance to explain herself, or was her corruption too deep? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories that spark debate.